Hi, it's Nick Leatherland here from Pegasus Property. Some of you may know me as a property developer on social media and YouTube, obviously. This video is going to talk about quickly the different kind of mindsets between people who create wealth and people who do not create wealth. 99% of us are working 9 to 5 jobs, Monday to Friday. We're in the rat race, all that kind of thing. I'm a business owner. I'm trying to work on my business, not in my business. But reality is I am working in my business because I'm running around all day doing stuff. So I'm a worker just like everybody else. I'm paying myself less than minimum wage because I'm trying to grow my business. So I'm probably worse off than the majority of people that have got a job. I certainly live a frugal lifestyle, even though, I'm doing millions of pounds worth of projects and all that kind of thing. I'm making no sacrifices so I can grow my business. So it will pay off one day, delayed gratification as people say. But what I kind of was just going to talk about really quickly, and a lot of people already know this, so I'm really sorry if this is like elementary level for you. And I'm sure a lot of the people that do follow me, this is elementary level. But if this is not elementary level knowledge to you, and you actually get something from it, that's really cool. So a basic way of explaining the differences in mindsets is something which I kind of picked up from Rich Dad Poor Dad, the book, which is awesome, by the way. You've got to check it out if you've not read it. You probably have read it because it is like the #1 business book in the world. And also this came from talking about leasing cars and how to buy a car, which I put on social media a little while ago, and I've had over 200 comments on it from people that have been really helpful actually. So let's have an example. We've got two guys. One is a wealthy person, or they kind of understand wealth and wealth creation, and you've got a person over here who's just a regular person who works a job and they basically get things on finance, and like 99% of people do. They've both got, say, £50,000 and they both want to go and buy a car. So this person over here who's potentially not great with money, let's say, they would go and buy a car for £50,000. It would obviously be a very nice car. They would drive the car off the forecourt, and it's probably worth about £40,000. Sorry, that's my dog. It's probably worth about £40,000 the second they drive it off the forecourt. They drive it around, they got to maintain it, they got to fix it, and it's now worth £30,000. A couple of years later, it's worth £20,000, and you get the idea. They've bought something that's a liability, basically. It's going down in value, it's depreciating in value, it's going down like this. Well, this person over here who's good with money, well, what would they do differently? Well, they could lease a car, and you might think, that's bullshit. Why would you want to lease a car? Well, if you took £50,000 and you put it into an asset which appreciates in value, like a property, for example, or something like that, that property will generate an income, or that asset, I should say, will generate an income, and that income could pay for you to lease a car. So actually, that £50,000 going up in value, and the car, you don't own the car, you're just leasing it. Who cares? I mean, at the end of the day, people say, but I want to own the car. I'm sorry, but if you've got a PCP or a HP or whatever, someone on finance, you don't own the car either. So what's the difference between you not owning the car and you leasing the car? There's absolutely no difference between the two things. So that's a really basic way of approaching it, and you can approach a lot of things like that. If you actually go right down to, I mean, let's not even talk about a car, let's talk about just life in general. Most people working 9 to 5 making that money, and they're spending that money on stuff. And I mean, this is like walking on eggshells, but there's like generation rent or whatever. A lot of people are renting. People can't afford to buy a house, and houses are really expensive in most parts of the UK. I totally get that, but I mean, where I live in Stoke-on-Trent, you can buy a house for like £60,000, and I know people who, if you got a house for £60,000 with a 10% deposit, that's £6,000. That's not that hard to save, in my opinion. I think you could save £6,000 if you wanted to. I wasn't born with a silver spoon in my mouth. oh shit, sorry, 2 secs. I wasn't born with a silver spoon in my mouth. I was brought up in a council estate, in, single mum upbringing and all that kind of thing. We didn't have a lot of money, and I I got kicked out of school. I got kicked out of school in year 7, so I was like 13 years old, permanently expelled from school for being too naughty, and I basically got no GCSEs. So I joined the Royal Navy at 20 years old to get a career, and in the Royal Navy you could join with nothing and you could work your way up. And I worked very hard and I saved all my money, and I'd go on long deployments. I'd volunteer to do deployments as well so I could make even more money, and I invested all that money in assets, and I lived a very frugal lifestyle. I didn't go out partying, I didn't buy designer clothes, and those assets eventually started making more money for me, and it allowed me to leave the Royal Navy and do property, which is my passion, full time, because I'm financially secure now. So you can save money if you really want to. You don't get things on finance, you go without, you make sacrifices, you don't go nightclubbing every weekend and getting pissed and doing drugs or whatever. You save your money and you invest it in assets, and eventually those assets start paying you back, and the money you make from those assets is what you then spend on going out to nightclubs and getting drugs, or I shouldn't say that, but you know what I mean. You start spending the money from the assets on the things for yourself, and that's how you create wealth and create money. So don't get dragged down in the rat race. Don't be a mug getting everything on finance. 0% interest does not exist. They put the price up in the first place to cover that. Car companies want you to get stuff on finance because they make more money on finance than they do just selling you the car off the bat. So yeah, educate yourself on money a little bit more, I'd say. Invest in assets first. Try and get your mindset into, read Rich Dad Poor Dad if you haven't, it's really good, but try and get your mindset into a little bit more of investing in assets first, and then the income from those assets will pay for the liabilities, basically. So yeah, thanks very much for watching. 7 minutes long. Take care. Bye.